What's going on, Babylonians? It's me, Songs of Rays, and today we are looking into Tiny Tina's why you should be playing the CLAWBRINGER class. Now, what we're going to do is break down every single one of these classes by looking into the like skill tree as to what makes them so strong, what makes them a bit weak, and from that you're able to then determine why you should be able to like main this class, and then obviously branch out into a second class. Now, in terms of like cross classes and all like dual specking and all that, there will be separate videos for this. This is just purely looking at each class individually for how they currently are, and the CLAWBRINGER was my first call. It was the first class that I knew instantly I wanted to be able to play, mainly because of the hammer, just to be able to throw that out there and just being able to inflict so much damage. I just love the idea of being able to be Thor in this game and obviously being able to inflict so much damage. It really is a lot of fun. But before obviously I spoil anything more, let's make sure that you are like and subscribe to the channel. We will be covering a lot of Tiny Tina's content going forward, and it really does mean the world to us. It really does help the channel out a massive and a ton. So make sure you are like and subscribe, and without further ado, let's get straight into the video. So to briefly sum up what the CLAWBRINGER actually brings to the table, I've managed to put this sheet together, which shows the strengths and the weaknesses. So the strengths when it comes to CLAWBRINGER, just as a class by itself, it comes with group and co-op buffs. So this is going to be one of the main classes you want to go to if you are planning to run with friends, or just do any kind of like other activities with other people, like randoms or something like that. You're all going to be able to benefit from what the CLAWBRINGER has to offer. They also excel at fire damage, just due to basically like the first couple of tiers when you start making your way down the skill tier, and it just really offers and really stacks up. So those red health bars will definitely be depleting really quickly. They do have probably one of the best DPS companions that's actually in the game with the Wyvern. The Wyvern does so much damage, and you're able to increase that even further with the skill tree. So I do think that companion builds are actually possible with using the CLAWBRINGER, as well as maybe another kind of like skill set. I've yet to look into that myself, but I do think that this has the ability to do that. And then they also have a fast recharge on their ability when it's cancelled early, and that's obviously with the hammer that they're able to throw out. And obviously when you pair this with your skill tree and other things to be able to get your cooldown back quicker, it can be as little as 4 to 5 seconds, which means you're able to trigger pretty much all of those enchantments that activate every single time you activate your ability. When it comes to weaknesses though, they do need to be dual class to be able to gain DPS help. Just by themselves, they're not the best DPS class in the game. When the capstone is decent, it's just too long of a cooldown to be useful, so therefore I normally try and avoid using the capstone where possible. As much as I do enjoy what it does and how strong it actually can be, the 25-second cooldown is pretty much a killer for me, and I feel like my points are better used elsewhere, maybe in like a second class or something like that. And then they are low tier for spell usage, so if you are planning to be able to use like your spells to be able to like cast out fires, or just any kind of like spells that really take your fancy, the CLAWBRINGER is basically not it. You definitely want to be able to find a different class for that, but that's fine. They're not supposed to be all-rounded. They're not supposed to be able to do every single thing in the game, but just know that when it comes to weaknesses, they definitely aren't the best when it comes to spell damage. Now, fortunately in Tiny Tina's, we are able to have more than enough points to be able to cover every single perk that's actually able to be picked up in the skill tree if we are just looking at one single class. And that does leave us with 1 skill point over, which means that at the very least you are able to go into any kind of second class. Even if you love the fact that they're like the class that you are going with, you are able to get 1 extra point, 1 additional kind of benefit to your kind of class, or your kind of from a subclass to be able to help out. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a quick look at obviously what makes the CLAWBRINGER so much fun. Now, the CLAWBRINGER comes with the Wyvern companion, which is actually quite a good companion to actually take out. So it's got quite a bit of utility when it comes to the skill tree, and companion damage is not necessarily actually a bad thing to actually go for, because there was quite a few skills that actually help the Wyvern actually deal some additional damage, some additional status. So actually, if you do get so it's not considered a dead roll. So the Wyvern companion is able to do 747 damage with its claw attack. It has its fire breath cooldown, and it also fire breath damage, and it has its respawn cooldown, or coolo down, as I've just noticed. If it ever dies, if it ever loses all its health, etc., etc. So any increase that we do to our damage also applies to the companion as well. So that's quite nice. But there's quite a few perks that we're able to pick up in a second that will actually look into that as well. When it comes to the action skills, I primarily prefer Storm Dragon's Judgment. 1, because we are able to use it as a ranged attack. 2, it's able to do melee damage as lightning damage at quite a distance as well. And on top of that, because we are able to recall it back and it damages enemies on the way back as well, we are able to refund some of our cooldown, which means that where it says cooldown time of 21 seconds, it will actually be a lot less than that. And especially if you actually go into your kind of hero stats with that as well, you are able to get this down to quite a nice cooldown rate as well. I think I've managed to get it down to around about 5 seconds if you throw it out and instantly call it straight back. If we have a look into the skill tree, so we've gone O for Fire, which is primarily the main one that I kind of want to go for every single time if I'm going for a Clawbringer. There's just no downsides to this. Basically, your gun damage is now able to inflict fire damage on top of what it already does, and fire damage is perfect to be able to go through those standard health bars. So this goes up to 20%, and it also gives off Wyvern Companion additional fire damage on top of that. If we go across from there, we are able to gain, with Radiance, increased maximum ward capacity, which gives us up to 30% with 5 points in it, so 6% each point. It's not a bad one. It's not a bad shout, considering that the Clawbringer is probably the most kind of like versatile in terms of like longevity, survivability. Having additional max ward capacity is not bad whatsoever. If you go for O for Thunder, just know that this will increase only melee damage, but it will also increase to your Wyvern Companion as well, and this goes all the way up to 30% as well. If we go to the next tree over, so we'll just start working our way down. We've got Dragon Aura, and this allows us to be able to be surrounded by an aura on the floor that grants ourselves and all allies increased elemental damage, and this goes all the way up to 20% with 5 points into it. This is also kind of like a staple, I believe, because this is just a pure damage bonus, which is works very well with O for Fire, and it also means that allies are able to benefit from your skill tree to be able to deal additional damage on top of that, which basically makes you a co-op like perfect god. You're basically like setting up the composition to be able to, like, for the team as long as they are standing near you, and it really does play well with another one that we're going to be looking into very shortly. If we then go across to Dedication, we gain increased action skill cooldown rate based on the remaining wards, so our shield. The greater the amount of shield, the greater the value, and this goes all the way up to 25% at maximum ward. So it just makes our action skill, which is in this case Storm Dragon's Judgment, come back a lot quicker. You can go for Cleansing Flames, but just because there's no way to be able to reduce that cooldown, I just feel like it doesn't do, and it doesn't offer enough to be able to beat out Storm Dragon's Judgment in that sense. So this is a very good skill to be able to go for, but I wouldn't necessarily put all your perk points straight into this one. I'd primarily go for this one, then this, and then start working your way down the tree as you go. Next one across, we have Rebuke, which gain increased damage reduction. Additionally, all damage dealt to allies is reflected to the attacker as lightning ability damage. So you gain up to 24%. Oh, sorry, that's with 8 points in there. So you benefit from 3% per level. So this will go up to 15% as standard. The rest of that is going to be my class, my armor that's actually affecting that as well. The lightning ability damage, obviously you can reflect even more back for that. So you get 4%. For each point that's put into this skill. So as standard, maxed out, this will go up to 20%, and it doesn't offer too much. It's kind of like a bit of a tickle to the enemies, but you know, the fact that you're able to get damage reduction to be able to make yourself survive, to be able to stay in the fight a little bit longer, it's definitely a decent skill to be able to go for, and it's probably worthy of a couple of points in there at the very least. If we go to Blasphemous Favor, this is our one and only kill skill, if I remember right. We're killing an enemy with a gun. Whenever the Wyvern Companion kills an enemy with a breath attack, summons a fire orb that seeks out an enemy and does fire damage. And on the other side, if you do melee damage and you kill someone, then or whenever the Wyvern Companion kills an enemy with its claws, it summons a lightning orb that also seeks out a new enemy and obviously does lightning damage as well. So the ability of the fire damage does less than the lightning, because I think it's so much easier to be able to trigger the fire one, and also fire just seems to be so much more super effective in more cases compared to the lightning ability. But overall, I think this is always worth picking up, because this is just extra damage every single time you get a kill, and also every time your Wyvern gets a kill, and you're just able to send all these orbs pretty much everywhere. It just kind of helps to be able to dwindle the health down. It's very rare it will actually get a kill by itself, but it will help you to be able to start transferring your damage from one target after you killed them over to another one. So 100% I would recommend grabbing this for 1 point. Next row down, we've gone Firebolt, and this allows the companion to be able to shoot firebolts at enemies, causing fire damage in an area on impact and dealing fire damage over in an area of time. So it just leaves like a patch of fire. Additionally, we also gain increased gun damage. So just for that alone, it's almost worth it, because we're getting a flat 8% increase to our gun damage, and the Wyvern is able to deal even more damage on top of that. It just makes it a bit more versatile, just adds an extra kind of element to its damage output. On the other side, we're going to skip the middle one just for the second, just so we can have a look at something very similar. We've got Storm Breath, which will also allow the Wyvern to be able to use Lightning Breath, dealing lightning damage that can arc from enemy to enemy, and this also gives us additional damage reduction, and at one point this does actually give us 12% damage reduction. So obviously as soon as we start stacking this up with Rebuke, you are able to start negating quite a lot of that damage that's going to be incoming to yourself. The lightning damage is also pretty nice. I mean, it helps to take down a few of the shields and all that, but once again, it's primarily just for the stats for yourself, but it does help out your companion, and obviously it's with things like this that actually make the Wyvern probably one of the better companions that's actually in this game. And we're in the middle, we've got Friend to Flame. And what this does is allows the Wyvern companion to gain increased damage. Basically what it deals, it just gets a flat 100% if you get all 5 points into this. So if you were looking to go for some kind of companion build, then this would definitely be a really good one to be able to pick up. But normally I would kind of give this a miss if I'm just purely focusing on my own character. It's definitely not worth it, and you can definitely take these points and put it into a second class. Going on to the last three, we've got Awe, which after dealing fire damage, the Fate Maker gains increased critical hit damage for a short duration, and after dealing lightning damage, the Fate Maker gains increased critical hit chance for a short duration. This works out at an additional 15% with 3 points into the skill, and also critical hit chance at 33%, and this lasts for 12 seconds. This is probably one of the better skills that's actually in the skill tree right now, because it's so easy to be able to deal fire damage, especially as this class, especially as we are able to do Oath of Fire. It just pretty much comes on every single shot that you're able to actually deal out, and the fact that you're getting an extra 15% critical hit damage just for actually shooting your guns is just insane. It's definitely worth picking this up, and I would highly recommend that you could put as many points into this as you possibly can. Moving across, we've got Indomitable. If the Fate Maker would enter Save Your Soul, instead we instantly refill the shield and deals bonus lightning damage for a short duration. Has a long cooldown of 120 seconds, but you do deal an additional 20% lightning damage in case you actually were able to enter that kind of mode. So I haven't found too much use for this. I feel like this kind of like point could be better used in another skill tree to be able to offer additional damage, to be able to obviously keep yourself out of fire, Save Your Soul kind of mode. But it's definitely there as a nice pick-me-up. It's definitely there as kind of like a panic button in a way, just in case some things go wrong. And definitely at those higher chaos levels, that things definitely can go wrong. So it's definitely worth a shout to be able to put a point in it if you can spare it. But most of the time, it's just not for me. So I can't see many builds of mine coming out that are going to actually have this point. And then lastly, we've got the capstone, which is Storm Smite. Whenever the Fate Maker activates his action skill, calls down elemental bolts that deal fire ability damage or lightning ability damage to nearby enemies, and this has a long cooldown. Now, I do wish that this would actually trigger every single time we can activate our action skill, but it has a cooldown of 25 seconds. But overall, this is a really nice capstone. I was kind of I wasn't expecting much from the ability in itself. When I actually got to use it, I actually primarily use it if there's any kind of like any trash mobs that are nearby me. Not only does my skill activate some of like my enchantments that are on some of my gear to be able to give me additional damage and all that, but it's actually really nice to be able to kill quite a few of the enemies in the area just by using the elemental bolt. It's definitely stronger than it looks like on paper, and you can definitely get a lot of stuff done with this. I do wish that the cooldown would actually come down quite a bit, even if it was taken down to like 15 or 10 seconds, but overall it's definitely worthwhile. It's definitely a decent capstone, and if you can actually get yourself all the way to there and still get relevant use out of your second class, I definitely would recommend getting all the way up to here. So what is it that the Clawbringer does actually well? And it's kind of like a few things. Like, it's not necessarily DPS focused. It's not necessarily the main glass cannon that you're actually going to be able to take out into most of the things to be able to chunk away bosses or anything like that. But what it does do, and it does really well, is fire damage. Now, fire damage is able to help out with quite a few of the bosses in this game. It's able to help with taking down quite a few of the trash mobs that actually do exist in this game. Now, obviously, there are other things where we've got like the bone element, which fire doesn't seem to do too well against. We've got shields, which obviously has always been kind of like an Achilles heel for Fire Flame in the first place. We've got armor, which armor seems to be quite strong in this game, so therefore flame isn't necessarily doing quite a bit, but the fact that it takes your initial damage that you're going to be outputting and then do extra fire damage on top of that. It's not like it takes a portion of your damage and converts it into fire. It just helps to be able to increase that damage on top of it. So it can do some really nice DPS figures, not necessarily as much as some of the other classes that actually do exist in this game, but it definitely has the ability to be able to hold its own. And the fact that we've got so much damage reduction available to us in the class tree definitely helps out as well. It's definitely a massive plus for this. And if you are looking to be able to get into the front line, to be able to take quite a bit of damage, it's definitely one of the better classes and definitely one of the better skill trees to be able to pick up to be able to help you out with that. What pairs really, really nicely with this is the fact that you do have the option to be able to go into companion damage, and the fact that the companion's able to benefit so much from your skill tree. Now, the fact that you're able to benefit yourself as well on top of that is a very nice plus. So it really has a very nice synergy between you dealing some damage as well as your companion. There's quite a few big pieces of gear that are in this game that have already dropped for me, where companion damage is actually kind of like precedent. It's kind of like the main focus of it, and I would actually love to see if like a companion build is actually viable in this game, especially at some of those higher chaos tiers. So I'll definitely be looking into that as time goes on, and obviously as we start to learn what Tiny Tina's actually has to be able to offer to us. In terms of how I run my build currently, you kind of want to get away with trying to do as much fire damage as possible, because that's the main focus of what the Clawbringer is. Now, I did try using this as like a combination kind of build, with the fact that you can go for melee, you can go for gun damage, you can do both at the exact same time, because you're able to do bonus fire damage on your guns, bonus lightning damage on your melee, and obviously have that kind of like a synergy where you're able to do both at the same time. It kind of did work for the first few levels. It's definitely a build that's possible, but it's definitely better to be able to spec into one or the other. I'm definitely going to be looking into some kind of like melee build. I'm feeling like maybe Stabbermancer as like a additional class tree to be able to help out with that. There's a few other things I'm tempted with the Berserker. I'm going to mess about with that, but rest assured I will definitely be bringing a melee build for you, because I love the melee aspect in this game, and the fact that there's a chance that we can actually have some kind of like competitive melee build is definitely something there for me. So the main thing that I really want to like kind of stress to you, and the main gun I've had a lot of fun with so far, is the burgeoning rogue imp. I believe the other prefix, like the burgeoning maybe of alarm, is going to be depending on the parts that you actually do roll with, but the rogue imp is a very nice assault rifle. The only thing that I would hold against it is the fact that in co-op, the Skulldugger kind of class of weaponry, the manufacturer, let's say, they do tend to break. Not in a good way when it comes to co-op, because when we actually started using this online, we noticed that there was a time where even though it looks like on my screen it's making the sound, it's watching the heat rise up to be able to say that the gun is shooting, there will be no bullets coming out, there will be no ammo disappearing out of my counter or anything like that. The gun, it basically becomes dead. So until they actually get that fixed, I don't know if it's a connectivity issue, I don't know if it's something to do with the manufacturer itself. I'm not entirely sure. I'll definitely be doing a little bit more testing if I can definitely find the time for it. But overall, if you're looking for solo play, this is definitely one of the better guns to be able to go out there. And in terms of enchantments, I think that this one's okay. I am looking to be able to get other ones. But this one, there was just a flat damage increase of 15%. I thought was decent enough to be able to stop rolling. In terms of other things that you can get away with, things that I'm finding a lot of fun at the moment are the Rain of Arrows. The Rain of Arrows is probably one of the better shotguns that actually exists in this game, and when you first pick it up, it's not necessarily gonna blow you away or anything like that. It's kind of like a mortar launcher. It has its own target on the floor, and basically it will just it will start doing like splash damage in a certain area because it's calling down a rain of arrows. Overall, it's very misleading, but when you actually take it into a game, it's a lot of fun to be able to use, and this is probably one of my main guns to be able to fall back on, because if you pair this with the Goblin pickaxe, because we've got the amped kind of prefix on there for the melee attacks amplify the damage of the next 3 gunshots by 49.4%. Basically, it just multiplies how much damage this gun can actually output, and it's able to take down things like Skull Boss down in like 2 to 3 shots, and that's in a co-op environment on Chaos mode, and it's definitely worthwhile. And this is the level 38 one, just keep in mind. Just imagine what you can do with a level 41, so I definitely recommend picking one of those up as well. The other legendaries here I'm just messing about with. These are ones that I've recently got given and managed to get dropped for me. But I am loving the liquid cooling. This one's actually pretty decent, but once again it also falls into the exact same category because it is a skulldugger, and whereas on co-op it's kind of like a 50-50 whether it's going to work or not, and once it actually stops working, as far as I can tell, there's no way to be able to actually fix it unless you come out of the chaos dungeon. So yeah, it kind of hurts a little bit. I'm definitely going to be re-rolling that enchantment because I don't feel like my current build actually helps out with that kind of enchantment on it. If we have a look at the rest of the gear, so there's still a lot of min-maxing left to be able to do, so this is not a build guide whatsoever. This is just to give you a brief overview as to why you should be playing the Clawbringer. But I've got, you know, you can see that there's some stuff in here, so gun damage, decent enough. I mean, that's a decent enough ring. The skill, the shield, you definitely want to be trying for something that increases gun damage by 40% if you can do. It's definitely worthwhile. I've gone for this one, this purple, because it was better than the legendary one I had equipped, because it offers extra damage dealt for everything that I currently do. It offers spell damage, but in terms of the spell, which you're going to be seeing in a second, or my recommendation, it's kind of neither here or there. The movement speed is very nice for that 20% to be able to get yourself out of trouble. We've gone for fire damage and Clawbringer power as the two main things when it comes to the necklace. 100% would recommend those ones. I've gone for additional loot luck just to be able to help me get some of those legendaries, to be able to do some guides, to be able to obviously fully kit my character out. So the gun handling one is kind of the one that doesn't really help out too much. And lastly, this is the main thing that I would recommend, and this goes to show that you don't need a max level one, because we have the triggering fortifying sigil. Now sigils kind of get a bad rap because they don't do much damage, or they kind of get overlooked because when you want a spell, you want something that's going to be dealing some damage. You want something that's actually going to be killing. You want to see the benefits straight away as to what it's going to be able to do. And the sigil really kind of like passed me by as well, to be honest with you, until I picked it up and realised what it was actually able to do. And basically, obviously the enchantment will take that completely out of it. It's a skill that lasts for 8 seconds, so it's not a full-on buff all the time. But what it will do is it'll kind of bring out like a dome around you. It's kind of a fairly large dome as well on top of that, and it will block most of the range attacks that will actually be coming into yourself. So any like bullets or anything like that, it will protect you from that. I've got this one where it increases all damage outgoing by 20% while you're inside the dome, and it will heal you for 8% of your health every single second. So it gives you a little bit of longevity, it gives you a bit of a pause, like a breather. It won't protect you against melee damage though, just so keep in mind enemies will still be able to walk in if they are melee focused. But the fact that you're able to deal so much more damage, and the fact that you've got some things that really trigger off your when you activate a spell, you can actually get some really nice damage numbers going from this. So I highly recommend picking up a sigil. You're not really using for like any kind of like offensive magic. You when it comes to your character skills and all that kind of thing, you're not looking to be able to increase your spell cooldown or anything like that. So I would highly recommend that you grab yourself a sigil, give yourself a little bit of like a respite, kind of give yourself a bit of a breather, and give yourself some additional damage at the same time as well. So that pretty much wraps up everything that you need to know about the Clawbringer in terms of the class and why you should be picking this as your first class. Now, like I said, we will be doing a video of these for every single one of the classes that are currently out there, but the Clawbringer was the main reason as to what drew me straight into the game, and that was the main class I knew for certain that I wanted to be able to go for. So I hope you've enjoyed the gameplay that's been in the background. I hope you've enjoyed the little bit of discussion in terms of like strengths and weaknesses and all that kind of good stuff. But yeah, I'd recommend that you do pick up a Clawbringer. I definitely would recommend keep an eye out for some of the videos in the future where we actually will be doing builds for the Clawbringer, as well as what are the kind of like multi-spec classes that you actually do need to be able to consider and actually go into. Massive thank you to the Babylonian family as always, and massive thank you to making it this far in the video. And as always, keep yourself safe, keep yourselves well, and I'll see you all on that next video.